Hello and welcome to Flipped IGCSE Biology, Unit B10, Energy Flow and Ecosystems, Lesson 1, Food Chains and Webs. In this lesson I'm going to take a little trip to the US. This place here is called Chesapeake Bay. Let's have a zoom in here. This bay is a home to lots of different wildlife, particularly many bird species. So this is the food web around the Chesapeake Bay area. You can see you've got water birds, fish, shellfish, etc. So, what is a food web? Looking at this, you might have some idea. According to Cambridge, a food web is a network of interconnected food chains showing the energy flow through parts of an ecosystem. We'll come back to food chains later on. So, this lesson is going to focus basically on learning a lot of vocabulary. First one is the difference between herbivores and carnivores. You should probably know this already, but let's recap it. Herbivores are animals that get their energy by eating plants, and carnivores are animals that get their energy by eating other animals. So look at the food web here, see if you can identify herbivores or carnivores. So these organisms here are herbivores. As you can see, they all eat plants, plants being phytoplankton or aquatic vegetation or just normal vegetation. All of the rest of them, as you can see, are carnivores. Next thing, producers and consumers. Again, a recap from Key Stage 3. So, a producer is an organism that makes its own organic nutrients. This type of organism does not need to eat, it actually makes its own food, normally using energy from the sun through the process of photosynthesis. So plants are producers. Consumers are organisms that get their energy by feeding on other organisms. They get their energy by eating. So once again, look at the food web. Can you identify producers and consumers? You can pause the video here. So, the producers in this food web are phytoplankton, the aquatic vegetation and the normal vegetation. All of the rest of them are consumers. We'll come on to this in a bit more detail later on, but basically primary producers are the ones at the start of the food chain, or at the bottom of the food web. Primary consumers are the first step in the chain, and then next to secondary and finally to tertiary. So, a food chain. Like I said, I mentioned this before. Food chain is a chart that shows the flow of energy, or food, from one organism to the next. It always begins with a producer. Here's a simple example. Grass to cow to human. So the grass is a producer which does photosynthesis to make its own food. The cow is a consumer, the primary consumer. It eats the grass, and the human is also a consumer, this time the secondary consumer that eats the cow. The arrows in a food chain show the direction of energy flow. They do not show what eats what. You would not get a mark for that in the exam. So back to our food web here. Can you identify any food chains in the food web? You can pause the video and try it yourself. Let's try one here. The phytoplankton is eaten by the benthic invertebrates, which are eaten by sea ducks, which in turn are eaten by the bald eagle. So the food chain is phytoplankton, benthic invertebrates, sea ducks, bald eagle. Let's try another one. Start again with the phytoplankton. They're eaten by small planktivorous fish that are eaten by gulls and terns. Or a different example. The phytoplankton is eaten by the bivalves, which are eaten by the herbivorous ducks. So as you can see, the food web is just a selection of food chains all kind of joined together. But where does all of the energy come from to start the whole process off? It comes from the sun. The sun is the main source of energy for almost all biological systems. Without the sun passing the energy to the producers, then the consumers would have nothing to eat, and the whole food chain would collapse. And here's the bibliography.